obviously your business is AI proof. AI is not going to show up and power wash the roof of the Superdome. How are you using AI in your business to improve it? And now, Escaping the Drift, the show designed to get you from where you are to where you want to be. I'm John Gafford, and I have a knack for getting extraordinary achievers to drop their secrets to help you on a path to greatness. So stop drifting along, escape the drift, and it's time to start right now. Back again, and time for another episode of Like It Says in the Opening, the podcast that gets you from where you are to where you want to be. And today, if you have an interest in maybe potentially owning your own business at some point, I got a guy that is well-versed. When I say well-versed, I mean, he's an expert in the subject matter. It's the idea of franchising, not just buying a franchise, but also how to franchise your own business. Because this is a guy that bought a small regional power washing company and turned it into a franchise that now has over 100 locations nationwide called Rolling Suds. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the program. This is Aaron Harper. Aaron, how are you, man?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on, John. I'm excited to talk with you today.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, dude. So, you weren't always obviously in the pressure washing business. What did you do before this?
I'm a recovering Hollywood executive that grew up in south of Los Angeles and went into Hollywood after college, trying to make it as like a talent agent, and realized I didn't want the life that a lot of the people I was working for had, and didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I reached out to some buddies that I knew from college, and one told me, you should get into franchise development. And I was like, what's franchise development? Because I really don't want to develop Wendy's locations, or I'm not a real estate developer. And that was kind of my understanding of franchising. And he told me, he kind of opened my eyes to this whole world of franchise ownership in, Two Men in a Truck, 1-800-GOT-JUNK, Roto-Root or Mr. Rooter. I didn't know any of these brands were franchises, and I didn't know that franchisees were independent business owners that own 100% of their business. Mm-hmm. And so ultimately, I was just excited about the idea of being able to help people become business owners. And so that's how I got into it. And I started working at a carpet cleaning franchise.
So you went from Hollywood to working at a carpet cleaning franchise.
Correct.
It's interesting. You say, because it's funny. One of the reasons I wanted to have you on was because a lot of dudes that I'm connected with that have a lot of money. And when I say a lot of money, I mean a lot of money, are all diving headfirst into the trades businesses. Mm-hmm. They're all can't get HVAC, plumbing, flooring, roofing, anything that is hyper trade specific. Because obviously AI is not going to come roof your house. AI is not going to come unclog your toilet. So these are technology-proof businesses that go forward. So if you are someone that is out there and you're thinking about maybe starting your own business, what's the advantage of buying a franchise versus just starting your own? What do you think?
Yeah, when you start your own business, you have to figure out a lot of things. You have to figure out which website provider to use, which marketing companies that are going to produce revenue for you, how to figure out systems, SOPs, and all of that takes time. And time is money. And oftentimes you could spend all that time and still not get the systems right, and therefore stall revenue and not grow as fast. Whereas I found a 35-year-old power washing company out of Philadelphia that has perfected a process of power washing that no one else can do. We, build the trucks ourselves. And ultimately, when you buy into a franchise, you're buying all of that knowledge. You're buying all those years of experience and trial and error, so you just don't have to make those on your own. Now, there's always going to be hiccups in business no matter what, but it's kind of like putting guardrails on some of those risks.
Well, it's funny. I saw a meme. I don't know if it was a meme or whatever you want to call it the other day, but it was showing the differences in franchise restaurants, and it had Jack in the Box and it had Chick-fil-A, and it was saying a Jack in the Box that does $500,000 a year makes more money for the franchisee than the Chick-fil-A that does $5 million, because they just take so much more of the top line dollar and then the bottom line revenue of the profit. So when you're looking at, is there a I don't even know, dude. Is there a website that does comparison of like businesses like this?
Yeah, so you can go online and you can download what's called the franchise disclosure document. These are all public documents that each franchise has to file every single year. And then in a certain item of that, which is called item 19, you can see the representations of all the locations that are reported from the year prior. So revenue, whatever the franchisor decides to disclose, profit, everything like that. Ultimately, the absolute best way to determine the health of a franchise business is to talk to existing franchisees. But it's funny you mentioned Chick-fil-A. Every single person thinks that Chick-fil-A is like this gold standard of a franchise. Yeah. They aren't a franchise. Like, the person who comes in to run a Chick-fil-A is effectively a general manager. So Chick-fil-A owns the dirt. They own the building. They own 50% of the profit.
Yeah.
And they take a royalty off the top. So essentially, the general manager, which is the franchisee, he makes good money, or she makes good money, because it'll do maybe $8 million and, let's call it a 10% net. So, they split that 50-50. So now they're making $400,000 a year, but like, they're just a really high paid employee. Essentially, they can't sell the business for a multiple of its earnings, but everyone's like, oh, I want to get into a Chick-fil-A because it's only $10,000 down. It's like, yeah, you're paying $10,000 to like be an employee.
You're paying to get hired. Is what you know. Now, also, I remember, and again, my previous life to real estate was in the restaurant industry. I did that for many, many moons. And I know that, we sold franchises with the restaurant company that I was with. And part of my job was to go take them back over when the franchisees failed. Was part of my job, which was always a fun part of the job, because they were failing for a reason and they weren't run very well. Let's talk about Rolling Suds. Like, if you're looking for somebody that wants to buy a franchise from you, right? What characteristics are you looking in that person that you think is going to make them a successful operator?
Yeah. So we were very intentional about this when we launched, that we were going to have a really high bar for people that come into our system. A lot of home service franchisors will decrease the amount of capital required to come in just so they can get more people. They'll kind of sign up whoever wants to come in. We did the opposite.
It's a gold rush in most cases.
We did the opposite. So we said you need to have 250 to 300 grand, like liquid or in retirement assets, ready to go for the business. You'll need to buy a minimum of 2 territories. We don't even do single unit deals because we're not looking for single unit operators. And you have to be willing to reinvest in the business for the first 2 years so that you can get to truck 2 and truck 3, which means you're not taking, you're not replacing your $150,000 a year salary from Oracle that you have year one. Like, you're coming in and you're grinding and you're going to build a valuable pressure washing business. And a lot of the reason for that is we're predominantly commercial. So we do really large jobs, $30,000 hospitals. We've done jobs in the multi 6 figures that are all commercial buildings, which is what we're built for. And in order to do that work, you have to have the capital to be able to support the staff and the sales cycle to win the work, and then the AR cycle to get paid. Yeah. And so it's like this kind of big thing.
The AR cycle being the most important part of it.
Important part. Sure. So we're looking for people who want to build large businesses. Like, they don't want a $300,000-$400,000 a year power washing business. Like, they want 3, 4, 5, 10 trucks on the road. I call our franchisees goalpost movers. They're going to set a goal, and then they're going to hit that goal, and then they're going to move the goalpost. And so they're coming in and they want to build like a sizable company. And so a fun stat is about 30% of our operating franchisees are former C-level executives. And they left that job that they were running full time to go and open a commercial residential power washing franchise, because they saw the upside of what happens when I build this to 3, 4, 5, 6 trucks with a ton of recurring commercial revenue.
Yeah, and they're not out there actually pressure washing.
They are not. And in fact, if they tell me they want to, I'm like, this isn't the opportunity.
Because you're looking for business people, not.
We're looking. Yeah, we're not. Yeah. I tell them their time's way more valuable than the $20 an hour they're going to pay someone to do the cleaning. So we require they hire a general manager in training and a junior technician prior to going to training. And they bring them with them to training.
A friend of mine, Jeff Finster, owns a company called Everbowl.
I know Jeff well.
You know Jeff? Okay, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I say a business done exploded with franchisees, and probably some of them. I'm full disclosure. I'm an investor at the corporate level of Everbowl. But some of the franchisees that were selected dropped the ball pretty quick. Some of the stores were a little bit of a mess, including the one right down the street from me, which always drove me nuts. So, and Jeff was pretty quick to pull the plug on those guys. So it's a little different with you because you're not really a brick and mortar location. What KPIs are you looking for out of people that you're like, dude, I'm going to pull the plug on these people. This is not good.
Yeah. So we have a very aggressive development schedule. And what that means for your listeners is when they buy, let's say 3 units, that means that they are opening 3 trucks within 18 months. So during that time, they're going to have benchmarks that they're going to need to hit in terms of revenue where they're going to open those trucks. The trucks are about $155,000 all in, but they're huge 16-foot box trucks, 2 to 3 machines on every truck. Like we can do a 3,000 square foot house in 20 minutes. We can hit 5 stories from the ground. So you end up making it up the value of the truck in the jobs you're doing.
Yeah.
But if they don't open those trucks, we have the right to take the territories back that they have not opened. Now, fortunately, we haven't had to do that, but that's why we have the development schedule written in there, is to show, hey, you got to reinvest and you got to grow these areas. What I can say is we try to treat people with the same amount of grace on the way out, the same amount of grace and help on the way out as we do when they're launching their business. So if someone comes to me and says, hey, this isn't working out, I actually want to go back and get a job, we have a very robust resale program, and we can get their territories sold really quickly. I mean, we've done 320 units in 28 months.
In resale?
No, in total sales from 0 units to 320.
And that's trucks on the road.
That is territories sold. We have about 112 trucks on the road. So we have 112 territories open out of because we're just the nascency. We're just very early. I mean, we launched in 2023, in the beginning of 23. So franchisees are still very early on. So we've had to do a handful of resales, but all of those have been purchased, almost all of them, by existing franchise owners in the system who are crushing it. There's only been 2 that we've done external outside the system.
Why do people fail with what you're doing? Were they just not good operators? I mean, they couldn't operate anything.
Yeah. So two of them were I'm buying this for my wife, and both of their wives didn't want to do it. So those were where it was it's and then another one just wanted to go back into brick and mortar retail. He was more comfortable with showing up to a place every day and having customers walk into the door, which is what he was doing before. I mean, service businesses, going back to your wealthy friends going into it, you still got to go out. You're a hunter. You know what I mean? You are a hunter. You go out, you go get the customers, you go get the relationships. And so if a franchise owner isn't comfortable with that, they want to maybe sit behind their computer and analyze data or spreadsheets, this just isn't the business for them. They got to be out in their community, shaking hands, kissing babies every single day. And we've is there a personality test that goes into your qualification? I'm just curious about that. Yeah, that's a good question. We've considered doing a Zoracle. We're looking into that right now, which would basically just say, here's what the Zoracle of our top franchise owners who are doing, high revenue volume within 6 to 12 months. Because
my guess is the people that are doing incredibly well are great salespeople, and then they have good operators that are running the numbers behind them. That would be my guess. That is part of it. Here's why personality tests become risky. Is some of our best franchise owners are ones that we let in that we weren't 100%, we were 80% on, and we're I think this year, and then they come in and they just crush it. And you can't figure out why. You don't figure out why. And so it's really hard to measure the most important ingredient in business ownership, which I know is grit. Are they going to give up?
Are they going to give up when things get hard, or are they going to continue to push through during tough times? And if the answer is that they're going to continue to push through during tough times, they're leaps and bounds ahead of a lot of business owners that just want to give up and say, "Hey, this is too hard."
Well, if you don't wake up in a cold sweat once a month and want to burn it all down, you're not entrepreneuring hard enough. I don't care what level you're at.
Totally. And, we've seen, the people who have extreme ownership, meaning like everything in their business is dependent upon their ability to execute. Like they're just happier franchise owners. They feel better about their business. They have more levers that they personally can pull on their business. And no matter what, in any system, especially one that grows fast, like Everbull, which is an awesome investment for you, or Rolling Suds, like not everyone's cut out for business. You know what I mean? However, those that come in and follow the model and execute on like what our founders have done for 35 years, like it clearly works. You know what I mean? Like we're in 35 states. There's a lot of franchisees. The majority of our franchisees are killing it. So it's like, just do what the other people have done before you, and it will work. Like if you try to reinvent the wheel and tweak things, like don't buy a franchise. Like that might be interesting to you, but don't buy a franchise.
The flip side of the coin, if you will, like you look at me and our business, prior to, we have the largest independent real estate brokerage in Las Vegas. We're number 2 in the market, about awesome. Close to a 7% market share.
Wow.
We got 580 agents that work here. I mean, we're humming. We've been doing this for 16 years. And I used to own 2 Keller Williams franchises. I was a partner in 2 Keller Williams franchises. And me personally, what I found, and it's just a lot, probably my personality type, it made me lazy. And what I mean by that is, for that statement that you just made, it was like, don't think, just execute, just follow the plan, just do this. And you become so dependent on the ideas and the execution and the processes, and you're just sitting around waiting for something new to come down the pipe. And I found when I went independent on my own and built this company, the thing that gave me the most juice was, I guess a good story is my son, when he was like 8 years old, I said to him, what do you want to do when you grow up? And he's like, I want to do what you do. And I said, okay, what do I do? He goes, you're the boss. I said, okay. I said, what's the best part about being the boss? He goes, nobody tells you what to do. I said, okay. You know what the hardest thing about being the boss is? And he said, what? And I said, nobody tells me what to do.
Yeah.
Every day I got to wake up and cast off and figure out a new way. So, I mean, there's a fine line between just shut up and execute and it'll work and it's just how it is. And then there's the innovation that comes from the other side of, we got to figure this out.
Yeah. And let me make sure I'm super clear so your listeners understand. Like initially when you launch a business, most people don't know anything about business. Like they're going out and they're figuring out. They might have some elemental knowledge about like the product or whatever, but like if it's their first business, they're going out and they're figuring it out. Right. So that's anyone who launches a business.
That's a chef. A chef is not going to go buy a McDonald's.
Right.
That's the line. That's the point.
So you're going out, regardless of whether you started from scratch, you buy a franchise, you got to go out and figure these things out. Now, what I tell our franchisees is imitate before you iterate. So do the systems, get it down, and then come up with new ideas, bring them to us. And then, because the best ideas come from franchise owners in the field. And so then when you have a great idea, come to us, we'll see it's working there. We'll create trainings and systems around it, and then we'll roll it out to the rest of the system.
It becomes the collective genius of the
yes. Yeah. Some people have called it the Zenius because franchisee Zenius.
Okay. So that's what you did there.
So you have to basically, like, it is a balancing act, but like in your first 6 months of a business, let's just call it 6 to 12 months, like, and you have all these tools in a franchise, like this is how you sell, this is how you talk to customers, this is the technology you use, this is the website, this is like all the stuff that you don't have to figure out so you can go out and execute. But inevitably, you're going to get better at running this business because you're already 35 years ahead of where the original owners were because you have all that knowledge right out the gate. Then let's kind of like tweak things. So like we've rolled out door-to-door programs, which came from a franchise owner in South Carolina. We've rolled out technology and AI programs that came from another franchise owner. Like So those things are really, really important to the growth of a brand. But
Do you have
where
a
people get
recruiting
in trouble
office in
is,
Salt? Do you have a recruiting office in Salt Lake City yet for your door to door?
a franchise owner? Yeah, we had a franchise owner.
No. I'm saying for door to door, you should have a recruiting office in Salt Lake City.
Yeah, and believe it or not, the franchise owners who helped create the door-to-door program grew up in Salt Lake City. Like it's just like what they do, you know. So like they built all these other businesses.
They spent 2 years of their life knocking on doors, trying to sell the Book of Mormon. I mean, they have zero fear of knocking on a door to sell anything, let alone power washing. They don't care.
Totally.
Easiest thing in the world for them to do. So that's why literally I've talked to people that they're like, yeah, we just recruit straight out of Utah for nationwide, door to door. And I'm like,
those guys make so much money, by the way.
Great. They do great.
Yeah.
And it's what you train for. There you go.
Totally. Yeah.
So if I'm somebody and I'm thinking about looking at a franchise, walk me through the biggest mistakes that somebody would make if they're thinking about purchasing a franchise or getting into that business. Where do people screw up?
Biggest mistakes in the selection process, or biggest mistakes after they've selected?
Going through the process. Here I am. I'm sick of the man. I want to quit my job at MGM. I want to own my own business. From that moment, where do we screw up?
The biggest screw up that I see in franchising in general is a lot of franchise owners come to franchising and think the systems are so dialed, I can keep my full-time job and this business will run itself. And it can run itself out the gate. All I got to do is find this great manager, pay the manager $60,000 a year. The manager will build me a multi-million-dollar business and get me a return on my investment while I keep my cushy $175,000 a year job with health insurance that pays all of my bills. That is single-handedly the biggest mistake that I see franchise owners make, regardless of which brand they go into. Now, we do not allow that, clearly, which is why I've been talking about it. Many franchise owners, many franchisors in my position aren't as selective as I am and aren't as good as finding franchisees as we are. So they take whatever they can because maybe they're undercapitalized, maybe they need the franchise fee, whatever reason there is to like bring that franchise owner in. And then they're sitting there and competing with for that franchise owner's time. And they have some general manager that isn't the franchise owner, that doesn't have skin in the game, that could go get another job at any point in time. And that entire territory that they just sold is at risk, and that franchise owner's capital and investment is at risk. And so that's the biggest mistake that people make going into franchise ownership.
Yeah, starting out, you just don't have enough. You just don't have enough bandwidth to create redundancy in jobs. If you lose a key person, it's your quarterback. You're screwed. You're going to have a real problem. And I can see where people will be like, I'm just going to hire somebody to deal with it. And then that person quits. And it's also like, I don't even know where anything is.
I don't even know where the door and the light switch are.
Yeah,
like,
I have no clue. I don't have a key to the building.
$4,000 a month lease that with an entire build out. And like, I can't leave my job because like, I won't be able to pay bills. So now I've got this unit sitting here bleeding cash. And that is the demise of so many franchise systems, is franchisors allow franchisees to come in that want absentee businesses. Franchisees expect that the systems are so dialed that they can be absentee. And here's the reality of it, John. If the business was so dialed that the franchisor could run it absentee, there'd be absolutely no need. There'd be absolutely no need for a franchise for franchisees. Like they're just
Canes.
We keep the entire profits.
Todd Gray was just owning everything. That's all they would do.
We would just own everything.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, there's such a, like we talked a little bit earlier about it, but there's such a wide price range of franchises. Does the amount of money that you got to come up with up front, is that indicative of potential future success? I mean, it seems like here's a really low barrier of entry to get in. That just kind of screams turn and burn to me. Is it the more expensive, the better the opportunity probably really is?
Typically, the investment you're going to make, the size investment, is going to be relative to the potential return you can make. So and this is generally, right? Like there could be franchises that just charge a bunch and it costs a lot and they don't get a return on it. But generally speaking, like if a franchise is going to cost, let's call it 250 to 350 grand to get in, like they should be able to, within a reasonable amount of time, get to that kind of net profit from their business to get a return on that initial capital invested. If that takes too long,
what do you think the runway should be? What runway should you look at?
Ideally, it should be 3 years.
Okay.
To get to the net profit of the original investment. And it could be less than that. It also depends on how aggressive that franchise owner is, if they're investing everything back in. But ideally, like for us, we want franchise owners to get to 3 trucks within 18 months. It's in our FDD, currently it's 2025. Like a truck does over $400,000 a year in revenue. So 3 trucks at $400,000 a year in revenue is $1.2 million business. By 18 months, they're going to have 3 trucks on the road. Like if they're opening all 3 territories, which most of our franchisees buy 3 territories. Well, now they're on a run rate for a $1.2 million business by year 3. And we've seen a lot of our franchise owners far exceed those development schedules. I mean, like I said, most of our franchise owners launched last year, and we've got like 35 second or third trucks on the road right now. Right. So like that's a significant portion. So you do have to be wary of the franchises that are like, hey, the franchise fee's 25 grand and it's only $5,000 for equipment. And so you're in for 30 grand and you can do this on the side. And like, wait till your job, wait till it ramps up before you leave your job to be safe. It's like, okay, this is like kind of weird, I don't know. In any business that you go into, whether it's mosquito, whether it's like food, whether it's, business services, like it's going to take everything you've got to make it work. And if it doesn't, like, then it's not going to be worth it. Like, it just really isn't. Like the price of like building something great is challenge. It really is.
It's funny. One of my favorite quotes is, if you have a choice, if there's a fork in the road and you have a choice, the right path is normally the one that produces the most short-term pain.
Yeah. Totally.
That's normally going to be the better of the 2 choices. So look for that short-term pain, right? Look for that stuff.
It's the price of admission for building. I mean, like we have 3 franchise owners at training that are launching. I'm here in Nashville, and I went to lunch with them yesterday, and I was like, guys, like your number one job when you launch.
I got a commercial building in Nashville.
Oh, do you? Which part?
805 Leah. It's a high-rise apartment building.
Nice.
And we just built it like 4 years ago.
We can absolutely clean it for you. So just
look at that. Business is getting done on the podcast. Look at that. Look at that happening. Look at that.
But yeah, so I mean, it was like your number one job is revenue generation. Like, and I shared my experience with them. I was like, listen, like, we raised capital to build this the right way, but from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. every single night every single day for the first 16 months, I was doing sales for the business, like finding franchisees and bringing people in. And then from 5 a.m. to 8 a.m., I was running the business. And from 8 p.m. to 12 p.m., I was running the business. And so like, we had capital in the bank. We had team members. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, this is going to take everything you've got. But like, now I'm the chairman of the board. We have a full C-suite in place. Like, it's, I went and put the short-term pain in so that I can have, an outstanding outcome.
And I think she's really done a good job at putting this at the forefront of American thought, which is buying an existing business, which is Cody Sanchez has done a great job with this. And a big part of her pitch and what she talks about is getting seller financing from boomers that are retiring is what she talks about, which is smart. So if you're somebody you're in the business of saying, hey, you got to come up with $250,000 worth of racks that I can see that we can do this straight away, versus Cody's like, find somebody that's been in the pressure washing business in Kentucky that you can walk in and seller finance that thing.
Yeah. I mean, if you ask Cody how long it takes someone to typically find that kind of personal business, like, and Cody and we recorded some content together last year. Like, she's awesome.
She's great.
I think everything she does is incredible. Mm-hmm. And if you ask her, of the people in her business buying course, how long it typically takes to find this business, it's like 18 to 24 months. And Some people find it sooner than that, but ultimately you're spending most of your time vetting these businesses, and private equity is now playing more downstream. They'll go buy $1 million EBITDA business, whereas a year ago it had to be 2 million or 2 million in EBITDA
big
or
businesses,
more. Yeah. So they're playing more downstream. So this kind of demand for these like existing unicorn businesses is really high, and the supply is not getting bigger. The demand is getting bigger. And so a lot of the franchisees that have signed up were former searchers, meaning they were searching for an existing business.
They got burned out of the search
for 12 months. They had burned a lot of their cash on due diligence. They had gotten outbid, and they were like, wait a minute, what's the opportunity cost of waiting a year and a half when I can buy a really hot brand, get in and execute, and then like potentially in a year and a half or 2 years be to a point where I'm like pretty set if I work hard at it. So what's cool about what Cody's doing is it's opening up a lot of opportunities for those people that are interested in business ownership, that are interested in a less risky option because it's an existing business, to then consider franchise ownership because it really checks a lot of the same boxes, right? Like, oh, we want proven systems, check. We want quickness to cash flow and ramp, check. You know what I mean? Like those are the very similar things. And I think that's evidenced by her investing in a franchisor. She invested in my buddy's business, who owns Resi Brands, which is That One Painter and Pink's Window Cleaning. And so she knows that this is a great path for wealth. And you know, people are still getting SBA loans with us. They put 54 down on the SBA loan. They get a $500,000 SBA loan. We just don't want someone leveraging all of their assets to buy a business. So
do you allow seller financing? Like say you have a franchisee that wants to get out, do you allow seller financing, or is it got to be?
That's between the franchise owner and whoever's buying their territory.
Okay. So there's nothing in your paperwork that prohibits that.
No, and that's fine with me. We've done deals with like that with a couple of resales. I mean, it makes a ton of sense because that franchise owner gets the majority of their cash back. The new franchise owner that's buying that territory doesn't have to outlay that cash right out the gate, so they can invest it in marketing and additional trucks to scale. So I think that works great.
Yeah. Well, let's shift gears, man. Let's talk about your business, the business of franchising. Cause we have been down that, we went down that road briefly when we thought we might want to sell franchises of our business. Briefly, we went down that road, and just the siege that is the attorneys and the filings and all of that stuff is insane.
It's a lot.
Let's go back. When you bought your business, did you always intend to franchise it? Did you walk into it with that intention?
That's exactly what was my intention. So there's this whole push. What you're talking about with Cody is entrepreneurship through acquisition, ETA, for your audience that doesn't know. That's what it's called, is ETA. Mm-hmm. What I did was franchise through acquisition. So I didn't actually buy a power washing business that now I'm going to go run that power washing business. My intention was always to buy the systems, processes, trademarks, rights.
You bought the franchise rights.
Yep. Everything.
So you didn't buy the business, you bought the franchise rights.
I create a separate business, which is the franchise business. I raise capital for that business. The founders of the original business get to keep their location. They become
royalty off everything else.
They essentially are a royalty-free affiliate franchise location that licenses. Yep. That's the way I did it with the deal. I mean, there's a ton of different ways you can do it.
That's a great deal.
It's a great deal for them. And then they get upside in the franchisor. So they're minority partners in the franchisor. And so they have this great business, which they would have had to seller finance if they wanted to sell it to someone because of the way their like business works and stuff like that. But they didn't want to do that. They want to keep running their great business that's done over $2 million a year for the last handful of years, which is a great business. They love it. And so I'm like, cool, keep your great business. In fact, it's so great. Why don't I take that and put it in every single major market across the country? and you don't know anything about franchising. I don't know much about power washing. So why don't you do the power washing part and I'll do the franchise part? And so we partnered, created this new company, the franchise company, and we went from 0 franchised units to 320 franchised units in 2.5 years.
What's your bandwidth like to do that again? Could you, I mean, that's my question. I mean, look, because that's the play, man. I mean, I talked earlier about the restaurant chain I worked for, which is now pretty much defunct, but it was Hooters of America, and same story, right? So you had these 6 dudes that like to get drunk and sit on bar stools and look at women in Clearwater, Florida, created a damn gold mine, had no idea. In walks Bob Brooks, who owned Naturally Fresh, the salad dressing company that was providing them their salad dressing, and says, somebody the rights to sell the franchises. And they just handed it over to him. Yeah. And he turned that into a damn empire.
I mean, it's the same thing that Ray Kroc did with McDonald's.
Yeah.
With the McDonald's brothers. I mean, it's not a new concept, but it is still pretty niche, because you really have to understand franchising. I think in order to do it the right way, you have to really understand franchising. And franchising is a completely different business than power washing. And where a lot of franchisees it's completely different than everything. And so where a lot of franchisors get in trouble is they're like, hey, I have this great like salad concept, and 6 people told me I should franchise it. So I'm going to go franchise it. And then they franchise it and they're like, oh, wait, now I'm a coach. I'm a therapist. I'm a marketer. I'm like all those things in under an hour on a Tuesday morning. And they're like, I just liked running my salad business. And, but this has been an incredible partnership with the Wendling family, who are my business partners. There's dad and son are the senior and junior are the second and third largest shareholders in the company. And then I raise capital from people who have franchised businesses before to thousands of locations that could provide guidance in addition to it. So to answer your question on bandwidth, I could very simply do this again. It's probably faster than I did this time. However, I'm heavily focused on making sure that the franchisees that sign in and become Rolling Suds franchisees have the resources they need.
I mean, of course, but even though SPACs have kind of lost their sizzle a little bit, I mean, the word roll up is still pretty sexy, and it seems like you could roll up a lot of home services businesses under this little umbrella, and it would be a little, a bunch of them are worth a lot more than a few of them.
Yeah, and I have thought about it, and I've got friends that do it. Where I'm really focused right now, have you read Sahil Bloom's book, The 5 Types of Wealth, that he released recently?
Nope, but I'm going to write it down right now. What was it? 5 Types of Wealth?
The 5 Types of Wealth. And the thesis of the book is like the financial, there's 4 other types of wealth other than financial. It's like time wealth, social, fitness, and...
Okay, yeah, I've heard the concept, yep.
Yeah, so... basically like most of people's decisions are designed, at least in the United States, are designed around like accomplishing financial wealth. Well, we've done really well with Rolling Suds. We're very fortunate. And my goal was always to get it to 300 units and then hire a professional CEO that can take it into like a more mature brand stage. Well, I've done that now. He's a month into running the company.
That's awesome.
I stepped into a chairman of the board role. I spend about 10 hours a week roughly on the business. And the rest of my...
Can I ask you this? Because I have this experience every time I do what you just said. When I hire somebody better than me to take over a seat at one of our companies and I watch that first month unfold, I'm like, how did I even get it to where I got it? This person is so much better than me. Are you experiencing that right now?
Yes. I mean, like, you're a founder. I'm a founder. Like, to be a founder, you got to like break a lot of stuff and create a really big fire. And then like that fire turns into revenue and employees and like a great business. Then at a certain point, someone needs to come in and maintain the fire and make sure it doesn't keep growing and create systems to optimize the fire. And like the founder's job is very different than that person's job in terms of like how their mind is wired. And we're just at that stage where like we need someone who's like going to optimize and professionalize. And this guy's been doing it 22 years with like ServPro, PuraClean, Restoration One. Like,
that's awesome.
His resume is insane.
I think one of my favorite ways to put it is it's one thing to make a baby. It's a whole nother race children. And it's two completely different skill sets.
And we've got 90 franchise owners who are in the beginning of their business.
That's a whole nother deal. So, okay. So you acquire the franchise rights, you get this done, you go through the filings, which were disaster. What'd your filings cost you, if you even remember ballpark? Just so people understand how expensive
10 to 15 grand a year, roughly.
No. I'm talking about your initial franchise filings. What did the attorney charge you for that?
Oh, so if you don't know what you're doing,
expensive.
Yeah. So if you don't know what you're doing, so if you don't know what you're doing, right? Like you'll go. So like it'll be between $50,000 to $150,000.
Yeah.
Because I worked at a franchise company prior to this, I just did it. Like I had a lawyer, I paid the lawyer 25 grand but I came to him with a templated FDD that I had used for other brands.
Wow.
I had done this before. We had incubated brands at a larger company. I had reformed brands prior to this.
Kind of the whole reason to buy a franchise. You were just repurposing what was already done that worked.
I just basically took so we didn't pay. In fact, the founders of Rolling Suds, like the original OG location, they paid a company $100 grand to like franchise their business. And I basically had to start from scratch because the stuff that they gave me wasn't usable.
Yeah.
And so like what they didn't tell my founders is that they would need another $1 million and 150% of their time to actually grow the business and franchise it. And so they just were like, wait, this is like way more. We bit off way more than we even knew we needed to chew. So what if I just kept running my great power washing business and I partnered with the franchisor who did the franchise part?
Yeah. What's your marketing plan look like to get franchisors? What's the marketing plan?
Franchisees.
Sorry.
Yeah. No problem. So we work with franchise brokers. Predominantly, which are kind of like real estate agents for franchises. So you'll go to a franchise broker and say, hey, I'm looking for a concept where I can make this amount of money and, I have this much to invest. And they do kind of an assessment on you, personality assessment, whatever, and determine, hey, these are some brands that I think would work for you to dig into. So the majority of our franchisees come from really solid relationships that I have within the franchise community. I've become kind of I hate to say it, but like an influencer in that franchise world.
I don't hate toot your own horn, man. I don't hate it at all.
Yeah. I mean, the reality is like, if you have influence, like that's a good thing. But like that word has been negatively impacted by those who have abused it in other industries. And therefore people think it's not a good thing. But I actually think to do something great and have influence is like actually a really positive thing. But yeah, so I've kind of become like a known entity in that space. And so franchise brokers trust me, and therefore they trust that we're building great systems for franchise owners. So they present our brand to a lot of prospective franchise owners. Additionally,
do you have an affiliate program that runs through your existing franchisees?
Yes. And then we'll pay franchise owners if they refer someone to us as well. And then I put out a lot of content online and do stuff like this that I really enjoy to talk about the brand so that we're able to find franchise owners organically. And so like Cody Sanchez and I recorded a video where we break down the whole business. So what the business looks like from a franchisee perspective, from franchisor perspective. It was an episode of Main Street Millionaire on her YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. So like a lot of, we've had a handful of franchise owners who watch that and they're like, I know you, Aaron, like we're good. Like, let's move forward. You know what I mean? So like I put out multiple pieces of content per day on all the channels that, actually last year was around a little over 40% of our franchise sales revenue came from content.
Yeah, it's always a win when that first conversation they already feel like they know, like, and trust you. It's always it makes things so much easier when that happens. Whenever somebody sits in my office and they're like, I feel like I know you, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be easy. Whatever we're doing, I'm like, yeah, I know where this is headed. This is gonna be good.
Yeah.
So what's the long-term play, man? What's the
Rolling Suds will be $1 billion company. There's absolutely no reason it can't be. I've done the math. It's about 2,400 trucks. I think we can get there in about 15 to 18 years, depending on how well our franchisees do. 2,400 trucks ends up being $960 million in system-wide sales. 1-800 got junk got to like 760 million in system-wide sales in about 20 years. They didn't have any systems in place for the first 5 from what I understand, and did not have experience in franchising either, just kind of had a great junk business. But they really professionalized the junk industry. And there was no one prior to that that did that. And we are doing the same thing to the power washing industry. Prior to us, there was no one that was professionalizing it. There's no PE roll-ups of power washing companies. There's only a handful of like $2+ million power washing companies nationwide. There's like no national brand other than us. We're in 35 states now. And so what's happened is like we're really penetrating this kind of like commercial market, because the majority of your power washers are going to have like a small machine and they're going to be able to do driveways. We have big trucks. We did the top of the Superdome before the Super Bowl. Like literally, that's the kind of jobs that we do. And so we're servicing this kind of like underserved part of the like exterior cleaning industry. And our franchisees are seeing like really quick wins as a result of that unmet demand. And so really it's just making sure we continue to reinvest in the business and reinvest in helping our franchisees be successful, so that we can achieve that. And then my goal as the chairman of the board is to make sure that the proper resources that my CEO needs are allocated to him. Yeah. And then holding him accountable to really like aggressive initiatives that allow us to take these massive steps forward every quarter.
Well, let me ask you this, because like my friend, also you probably know him, Tommy Mello, for They One Garage. Yep. You know, Tommy is insane about the customer experience when dealing with garages. Yeah. And I've had his people at my place, and it's insane how on top of it they are with their SOPs for how they deal with customers are just so far beyond. Is that because again, this is like, it's a pressure washing business, right? Same. Yeah. So what are you doing to ensure that elite customer experience? What SOPs have you baked into your people that make sure that happens?
So every franchisee uses the same technology. So that's one piece of the business that otherwise they'd have to figure out on their own, meaning the field management tool, the CRM that follows up with the outstanding leads that you have, the field management tool that manages the customers that you've already booked. They get text messages when their technicians are on their way with a picture of the technician. Like they get reminders afterward, like days before. They get thank you emails. They get like the customer. We obsess over the customer because the customer ultimately is going to be the best salesperson for that franchisee to get more customers in their market. And so what we've done is basically like before we even launched this business, I sat with like a blank piece of paper or a blank document on my computer at like, it was one of those, like, it's Friday at like 8:00. And I'm like, Sarah, like I tell my wife, like, I can't watch another episode of Bridgerton. Like I have to go sit in front of my computer for like an indefinite period.
I can't watch a single episode of Bridgerton. That's where I draw the line, my friend. Not one. Never seen an episode.
Yeah. Well, so I'm like, I got to go. And I sit there from like 8:00 till like 3 a.m. and just wrote out the customer journey. So like what I want the call center to say, because we've got a call center that answers calls for our franchise owners. What are the objections that you might get? How do you overcome them? All the way down to like, what text messages are the customers getting on the way? When are the reminders coming in? How do we personalize those reminders? And then also did a separate document that was the customer, like the franchisee kind of journey. So the franchisee knows what steps are happening at the same time. And then basically I took that document to a handful of CRM companies in the franchise industry, and there were only 3 that could build it for me.
I'm guessing Salesforce was probably one of them.
So there was Service Titan, and then there were 2 others. And Service Titan is insanely expensive. And for our business, it's not as complex as like HVAC or plumbing or like restoration. So we didn't go with Service Titan.
Bid limits or anything. Yeah, I think I get it.
Yeah. So we went with one of the more like niche options. But anyways, like I did that before we even launched this business.
Well, so you're using outside tech, but at what point do you say we've got to get some proprietary stuff within the company?
That's always an option. From my experience talking to other franchisors, and I run a mastermind with other service franchisors, we meet once a month, is that it becomes incredibly expensive to maintain and upkeep. There's always bugs with custom stuff, at least initially. So then there's a staff internally.
Yeah, but you run a mastermind. Why don't you just turn it into an SAS play and then sell it to them?
Hey, there's a lot of directions I can go, John.
I'm trying to find every nickel I can squeeze out of you.
I know. And I think the same way. I'm just like, I'm so exhausted from the last 2.5 years that I'm like, I don't want any other businesses right now. I got a big enough one now to figure out.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, they say like, what's your toxic trait is I can talk to anybody and they can talk about their business that I know nothing about. And within 5 minutes, I'm like, I could do that. And I'll go down some black hole and have to bring myself back. Like, no. Stay in your lane. Do what you do. You're doing well.
Because you're an entrepreneur, man. That's just the way we're wired. That's the way we think. Like, I have conversations with people and I immediately start thinking about ways they can make money starting a business. And they're like, do you want to invest? Do you want to do it with me? And I'm like, no.
No, you know what I finally started doing, dude? Okay, so I have a friend named Josh, and my buddy Josh, like every time I see him, no matter what product is in his vicinity, right? If it's sunglasses or if it's this or if it's that, whatever it is, he's like, oh yeah, I got a piece of that company. I got a small piece of it. Because he's like, finally, and I'm that guy that I'll go to dinner with somebody and I'm not smart enough, I guess, to see that maybe they invited me because they want my expertise in a particular area that I am very well versed in. And then they'll be like, hypothetically, how would you do this? And I'll spend the next 40 minutes like, oh, you know what you could do? And then you do this. And then, oh, but you know what? You should attach it to this. But if you brought this, it would make it better. And then over a 45-minute meal that cost them $30 to buy me a bad steak, I've now given them a $20 million playbook. So after talking to Josh, I'm finally like, now when people start that, I'm like, oh, you want to market this product into the real estate industry to either loan officers or realtors, or have them help you sell to their customers. Yeah, I can consult for equity on that at the upside. That's what I do. Consult for equity. And I'm done being the free advice guy, man. I'm done with that. So now it's all going to be consult for equity from now on. My wife was like, stop doing this. You got to make this look harder than it is.
Yeah, totally. I think that makes a ton of sense.
It does. Let me ask you one more question, which is this. Sure. So obviously your business is AI proof. AI is not going to show up and power wash the roof of the Superdome. How are you using AI in your business to improve it?
So a handful of ways. We do a lot of lead generation for our franchise owners, particularly around commercial outreach to customers for commercial work via email, via direct message. And a lot of that is AI generated. And it's personalized to whoever is receiving that email. And across the country, we send out thousands of emails per day across, hundreds of different domains. And
property managers,
facility maintenance managers, general contractors, HOAs, people who own restaurants. And we have national accounts for our franchisees as well. So we do it on the national level and on the local level. So we've generated work with like Starbucks and Panda Express and Popeyes. So we're kind of like taking the same approach that we do locally, and we're doing it nationally as well.
Okay.
And so that kind of allows us to really speed up a lot of lead generation for franchise owners through these different kind of efforts. Additionally, we've taken our operations manual, which is all of the 35 years of knowledge that our original location has, and we've uploaded it into its own large language model so that instead of them having to go to the founders and say, hey, how do I do this one thing? Or, hey, how do I clean breezeways? Or, hey, how does this happen? Or what chemical do I use for this? They just plug it in. They just literally ask the AI and it answers. And then if there's a question that is not being answered, they send it to their business coach. We answer the question, we upload it back into the AI. So it's like this constantly like strengthening knowledge base for our franchise owners. And then
the Rolling Suds GPT, I like it.
Exactly. And then there's some other stuff that we do on the kind of operations level for onboarding that's AI generated, which takes a lot of heavy lifting off of my team, like the follow-up of, have you connected with this supplier? Have you signed up with your insurance? Have you done this piece? Like all the kind of nitty-gritty stuff that has to happen before launch. But it used to be like my team sending out individual emails to every single franchise owner.
Not anymore. Yeah.
And now we don't do that.
So you're doing marketing nationally for those guys. I'm guessing there's a call center on the back end. Do you see in the near future being able to automate that call center, or you always want to maintain that personal touch?
So we outsource it to the best call center that's in Utah, in the home service space. So we don't do it internally. We have a vendor that we've held accountable to make sure that they have metrics that they want to keep.
Yeah. One less thing to worry about. And if they don't perform, you can replace them. I get it.
Correct. Whereas if you do it internally and you invest in a call center and it doesn't work, now you're out all this cash.
Yep.
And franchisees aren't happy.
Smart. So you try to keep it lean, keep it simple, and hand off as many problems as you can. I like it. I think that's a smart way to do business.
It's about leverage, right? Like, what is the highest leverage thing that my team should be doing on a daily basis? And we have 24 team members and a full executive team in place. But like, what should they be doing? They should be supporting franchise owners to help them understand how to make their business economically sound. And they need to be working hand in hand with franchise owners to do that. Not creating call centers, not creating chemical plants, not creating all these other things, helping franchise owners be successful. Now, as we grow and we have 250 franchisees operating, does that change because we have more cash and we get like potentially? But right now it's like we're working to help our franchise owners get off the ground.
I love it, man. Well, if they want to find more of you, where do they find you, Aaron?
So rollingsudsfranchise.com, they can request information if people want to become a franchisee. Additionally, I just put out a ton of content online that is about franchising. And so you could follow me on Twitter. It's Aaron Harper, CEO, Aaron T. Harper on Instagram. Admittedly, a lot of the content I'm putting out right now is me training for an Ironman, and then whatever business stuff comes up in my mind.
I don't hate it.
Yeah. So it's kind of a different vibe, but anyways, and then there's a bunch of like resources online, like you can type in my name and there's a ton of articles and stuff that have been written just about franchising in general.
Cool. I love it. Well, thanks, brother. If you're ever in Vegas, man, you're more than welcome to come by and see us.
Thanks, Sean. I appreciate you having me on.
So, dude, if you're somebody that's aspiring to open your own business, I mean, that was kind of eye-opening. I mean, there's a lot of pitfalls, and trust me, as somebody that has opened businesses that have highly succeeded and opened some that have highly failed, I think the one thing I'm taking away from this is this. Number one, if you don't have expertise, and when I say expertise, I mean you absolutely know what to do. Don't go at your own way and try to open your own business, because the amount of mistakes that you will make and the time that it will take to get the education will probably eat up all your capital and you go out of business. This is probably a much safer route for you. Find a franchise that resonates with something that you want to do. Understand that you got to work. You're going to have to put effort in. But I like that 3 years. I like that idea of what Aaron said when he said, you know what, try to choose a franchise. You're going to be making that amount of money of whatever you put in within 3 years. So anyway, we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for listening. What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining us for another episode of Escaping the Drift. Hope you got a bunch out of it, or at least as much as I did out of it. Anyway, if you want to learn more about the show, you can always go over to escapingthedrift.com. You can join our mailing list. But do me a favor, if you wouldn't mind, throw up that 5-star review, give us a share, do something, man. We're here for you. Hopefully you'll be here for us. But anyway, in the meantime, we will see you at the next episode.